Kahan had never believed in love, at least, not the kind that made you lose sleep and question reality. His life was simple, built on routine and silence. He worked at a small design studio in Karachi, living in a rented apartment with too many unwashed coffee cups and too few smiles. Then Fran entered his life, like sunlight through a cracked window. Fran was everything he wasn't. She was loud where he was quiet, spontaneous where he was careful, emotional where he was guarded. They met through an art project, a local event combining photography and design. She was the photographer, he was the designer. The moment she walked into the studio, wearing a white shirt with paint stains on it, something inside him trembled. "Hi, I'm Fran," she said, stretching her hand forward with that careless confidence that only people with warm hearts possess. "Kahan," he replied, his voice low, trying not to sound nervous. That handshake lasted longer than either of them realized. Over the next few weeks, their friendship grew like an untamed garden, messy but beautiful. They'd work late, sometimes arguing about fonts or colors, sometimes laughing over cheap noodles. She called him Mr. Serious, and he secretly loved it. Fran had this habit of taking random pictures of him when he wasn't looking, when he was sketching, typing, or even yawning. "Because those are the real moments," she'd say. Kahan pretended to be annoyed, but each photo became a silent confession. He didn't know when work turned into friendship, and friendship quietly turned into something deeper. One rainy evening, they were walking by Clifton Beach. The city lights reflected on the wet road, and the sea sounded like 1,000 whispers. Fran looked at him and said softly, "You know, you have the kind of eyes that never lie." He smiled awkwardly. "That's because they've never had a reason to. Maybe they need one," she said, smiling back. That night, Kahan couldn't sleep. He lay awake thinking of her laughter, her voice, her stubborn way of living. And for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Weeks passed. They grew closer, but never confessed. There was something sacred about their silence, something fragile. But life, as always, had its own cruel timing. Fran got a job offer abroad, a photography fellowship in France. It was her dream, the kind of opportunity she'd once cried over not having. When she told him, her eyes sparkled, but Kahan's heart sank. "That's amazing," he said, forcing a smile. "You're not happy?" "I am. It'll be different without you." She looked away. Maybe distance won't change everything. But it did. The day she left, it rained again, like the sky was repeating a memory. She hugged him tightly at the airport. "You'll miss me," she said, laughing through tears. "I already do," he whispered. She smiled and walked away. That was the last time he saw her, for a long, long time. Months turned into years. Kahan kept working, living, breathing, but nothing felt the same. He still received her photos sometimes, sunsets, strangers, smiles. But the messages grew fewer. Her world was changing, and he was stuck in the same city, the same routine, the same silent apartment. One winter night, he got an email. The subject line read, "Goodbye, maybe." His heart pounded as he opened it. Greater than, Kahan, I don't know how to say this, but I think we both knew it would come. Life's pulling me somewhere else. I met someone here. He understands my chaos, maybe like you understood my calm. Don't hate me for it. You were my best chapter. Fran. He read that message until the letters blurred. His chest felt hollow, like someone had quietly removed a part of his soul. He didn't reply. What was there to say? For months after that, he avoided the places they'd been to. He stopped drawing, stopped listening to her playlists. Even coffee lost its taste. Love had come, burned brightly, and vanished, leaving only smoke. Years later, he moved to Lahore for a better job. Life settled again, though his heart still carried her ghost. He became known for his calm creativity, his quiet genius. People liked him, but no one knew him. One spring afternoon, he was asked to design for a charity exhibition. He arrived early, setting up posters and lights. When he looked up, his breath froze. There she was, Fran. Older, softer, but still her. She was holding a camera, wearing that same white shirt with paint stains. Their eyes met. For a moment, time refused to move. "Fran," he whispered. "Hi, Mr. Serious." Her voice hadn't changed. She smiled, the kind of smile that could bring the dead back to life. They talked for hours after the event, sitting under a tree behind the venue. She told him she'd left photography for a while, traveled, found herself again. The man she'd written about didn't work out, she said with a faint laugh. And you? She asked. Did you ever move on? Kahan looked at the ground. I tried. But some people become part of your breathing. You can't unlearn them. She grew quiet. The wind carried the scent of spring between them. I used to think leaving you was freedom, she said softly. Now I think it was a mistake. He looked at her, searching her eyes for the truth he'd always seen there. Why tell me now? Because I finally stopped running from myself. They sat in silence, the kind that heals instead of hurts. The world had changed, but in that moment, they hadn't. Fran reached into her bag and pulled out a small photo, one she'd taken years ago. It was of him, sitting at the beach, looking at the sea. I kept this, she said. All these years. He smiled, not the sad smile he used to hide behind, but a real one. You still take bad pictures, he teased. She laughed through tears. You still say the wrong thing at the right time. And somehow, that laughter felt like coming home. Weeks passed again, but this time was kind. They started meeting often, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for silence. They didn't rush it. They didn't name it. They just lived it. One night, as they walked by the same beach where they once said goodbye, Fran said quietly, "Do you believe in second chances?" He looked at her. Only when the first one never really ended. She smiled and took his hand. The tide touched their feet, cool and forgiving. That night, he kissed her, softly, carefully, as if afraid she'd vanish again. But she didn't. She stayed. And in that kiss, years of sadness dissolved, leaving only love. Months later, they opened a small art studio together, Frame and Soul. It became a place where broken things found beauty again, just like them. They'd spend their mornings surrounded by canvases and laughter. Sometimes she'd catch him staring at her. What? She'd ask. Nothing, he'd say, smiling. Just remembering how long it took for the universe to bring you back. And she'd whisper, maybe we were never apart. Just paused. Years later, when people asked about their story, they never spoke of the pain.